Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Greg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. And I brought on Dr. Ross Green from Expert Institute. This show is going to basically be for lawyers and law firms. How are you doing, Dr. Green?
I'm doing great, Greg. It's nice to meet you, and I really appreciate you having me on, and hopefully meeting some of the folks that listen in as well.
All right, so Dr. Green, Ross, as he prefers to be called, is an ENT, but now he's sort of in the medical lawyer world, I guess. And, listen, I know there's a lot of lawyers out there that are like, oh my God, my case they're fighting it. It's such a good case. What do I do? And then you walk to your next door neighbor and you tell your next door neighbor about the case and you need an expert. I know somebody, blah, blah, blah. And then you spend some money and then you find out, wow, this expert really is not top of the line. So let's talk about Expert Institute, what you all do, what separates you from other agencies that, find people, the best experts.
Right. Well, for starters, we have 4 core services. I'm going to initially start with our expert search, but for everyone to know, if we end up getting to it during our time here, we also can review records in-house. We can also get literature, and we can do due diligence on opposing experts. But let's start with your question, of course, on our expert search and what makes us different. So we've been around for about 14 years, and initially our initial product offering, all we offered was expert search, and it's what we're best known for. In sum, we could find you any expert, medical or non-medical expert. We completely appreciate how important experts are for the attorney's cases, how they can make or break a case, even despite being the best litigator out there, the best attorney. We work with some of them, many of them. At the end of the day, an expert is a necessary evil, if you want to call that, or a necessary opportunity is how I see it, to really prove your case and get justice for your client. So what it distinguishes us from the rest of the crew is that we custom recruit for all of our experts. What that means in sum is that the experts under most projects will not pay us any amount of money to be part of some system or some database where if they pay us, let's say $1,000 to be higher up on some list, that doesn't exist. We are here to objectively find our clients the best expert. Our revenue on these projects come from the attorneys, which is to say, and just to be blunt, we are objectively in the market to find, through a custom process, the exact right expert for you. And so what I mean by a custom process is, though we've been in business 14 plus years, we've reached out to literally over 3.5 million experts, but we're also amassing information on medical and non-medical experts based on their certifications, cases they've worked on before, what they've been struck on, things they've said on social media, publications. All of that's coming in the background. So when an attorney, let's say from Florida or Nebraska or Alaska, Hawaii, we work across the nation. We actually also work in Canada, Mexico, and some UK cases, but mostly in the 50 states. What that means is we will ask very specific questions, not just what state do you want this expert in, but really what town, what jurisdiction. If you need an independent medical exam or a medical exam of some sort, where is the patient located? What kind of litigation experience do you want the expert to have? Who should we not be reaching out to? Do you want someone who's academic? Do you want someone rural? Do you want someone who has an even plaintiff defense split, who's been deposed 15 times, gone to trial 20 times? Or do you want someone who's gone to trial 100 times? Or do you want someone who's never done this before? I can't tell you, probably the most fascinating part of my job, a lot of parts of me wish I went to law school other than medical school, but one of my favorite parts is kind of picking the brains of attorneys, and almost every attorney has a different philosophy on what makes the perfect expert for them. And I find that fascinating, and we're all about it. And so based on all of that information, once we get started, if you have no rushes at all, within 3 to 5 business days, we're going to recruit, after looking through tons of different profiles, 2 to 3 candidates who know the case, have seen a really good summary, and are preferably on board with the case, or open-minded about the case theory, are of course not conflicted. Their background is crystal clear. They've worked on similar cases if that's important to you, et cetera, et cetera. So checking off as many boxes as possible. And we set up introductory calls, because look, what's on paper can't be very different than speaking to someone. On paper, I don't know what I look like, and I don't know what I sound like in person, but that would be for you as the attorney to judge, let's say me, my credentials and how I sound. So we'll set up Zoom calls with those experts And once you see who you like and you say, I want to retain so-and-so, Miss Smith or Dr. Smith, we will send you all of their contact information as if you've never worked with us before. We do not middleman the process. You reach out to your expert directly, you pay them directly, and the expert will bill you directly. And that's all on purpose for courts and appearances. And so that's distinctly what makes us different is the custom recruiting and the fact that we don't middleman the process, so to speak.
Yeah. All right. So I want to make sure that I want incorporating everything in every type of case that you provide experts for. So you do plaintiffs and defendants.
That's correct.
You do commercial work,
Absolutely.
personal injury, criminal.
A lot of criminal defense cases. We've also worked on a handful of very high profile ones. We've worked on pro bono, and we've also worked on the civil side of the cases as well. So not the criminal, but the civil. So basically just in sum, if you need an expert for any reason, it doesn't matter the type of case, though it's mostly personal injury or criminal defense, we're here for you.
Yeah. All right. So family cases, probate, all that, right?
All of
Intellectual
that.
property challenges, high end, the most sophisticated patent contests. You guys can screen them out and send out the best of the best, right?
That's right. Business law as well. I mean, the list goes on, but absolutely, I think you're nailing it, Greg.
All right. So, I'm going through your, the website, your website, and, you're talking about using the best legal technology, the best intelligence and all that to basically identify the best experts. Like, so, that sounds great, but exactly, what type of legal technology and intelligence are you using? Or is it just like Google searches, hey, where did this expert testify in?
Yeah.
Without giving away your secret sauce.
No, the secret sauce is this tech. It's ones and O's and it's coding. So there really isn't much I can give away here. It's more of a technology conversation. So I don't think I would give any secrets away. Sure, we do a little bit of Googling just to make sure we don't miss anything, but it's far greater than that. In fact, Google is really a last kind of resort for us. What we have is this proprietary technology that we've created, and we created it years ago. And I would even say now, looking back with the artificial intelligence AI revolution, everyone's talking about AI. Everyone, everything's AI, this, that. This really was a form of AI, and forms of AI have been around for as long as computers have been around, and at least sophisticated enough ones like modern-ish computers. So we were developing that before, where we weren't calling it anything other than it's our proprietary technology, but it is scraping the internet and hundreds of different organizations and different websites and different professional sites for all this information that it then spits out a bunch of very relevant information for us. Now, that sounds kind of cool and fancy, a little bit out there. We're using this technology. At the end of the day, that technology is great, but it does not replace the fact that we have a whole team of researchers, about 70 of them, that they pick up the phone, they call, they speak with these experts, they vet them, they screen them and make sure they're going to be a good fit for your case. So the combination of the computer, which does a lot of the legwork, but honestly, I think the magic sauce is really just that we pick up the phone old school. We make sure that these people are real, that they're the real deal, they sound good on the phone, and that they could be a candidate for your case and that they're interested in it, legitimately interested in it, not just, I want to grab your $10,000 and I'm going to say whatever you want to hear. We could kind of pick that apart based on speaking with them over email. You can't do that so much. So I think it just old-fashioned grit, and it's things that attorneys have been doing for years, maybe not the proprietary technology, but on the scale of having 70 researchers and the types of cases we've worked on, about 3,000 different cases a month, allows us to really nail each and every expert search that we do as best we can.
And obviously the expert's got to make a very good impression, be able to distill the information in a way that a jury can understand, the judge and all that. So, I appreciate the fact that you get on the phone with them so that you can figure out, if they sound good and, they can formulate a sentence that everybody understands. But how do you like actually go to the level where you will get their referrals and find out who's hired them before and if they like them? Is that part of your screening process?
It absolutely is. Upon request, and actually it's requested a fair amount, as you could imagine, especially for federal cases where you need that information anyway. we are absolutely happy to do it. Now, in those circumstances, of course, we are subject to what the expert tells us, unless we're able to pull in information about other cases that we know that they've worked on, which often is the case as well. So at the end of the day, just to answer your question succinctly, yes, that's absolutely something we're doing.
All right. And another thing that sort of, piques my curiosity about what services you provide is that I see on your website, you have a subscription-based program. So I'm interested. I've got one case. Am I doing a subscription? Like, what's the different programs that you offer clients like lawyers?
Yeah, it's a great question. So just on a one-off basis, hey, I need an expert here, or I need you guys to review records from a consultative perspective. I'm not really sure causation damages or liability if it's a med mal case, or I need some literature applied to my case, or I need due diligence on an expert. Just a one-off. I have one case here, usually ranges between $2,500 and $3,500, which is the fee to us. It's the only revenue we make from the case, and we issue a payment receipt at the end of our work, so you can allocate it back to the file, assuming, of course, that you collect on the case. It shouldn't be seen as an overhead, and then you pay the expert directly their hourly rate. So that's just on a one-off. When folks have 2-3 needs over a 6-month span, which is very common, and this is really what our business model is based on, is the subscription model. Just about every client, I would say nearly 100% of clients that work with us and are repeat customers end up under this model. And so for anyone who's out there who's interested in our references in whatever state you are, whatever jurisdiction, I'd be happy to provide that. We have phenomenal references and folks we work with across the country under these models. And it's going to be very specific and tailored to that firm. A firm that is a conglomerate and has ads all over the country and needs 30 experts from us a month is going to pay way differently than a solo practitioner or someone with just a wife and husband, 2 attorneys, 3 attorneys, who would be sending us 3 cases a month. And we generate a contract based on that thought. The general, just so that I don't keep it as a cliffhanger, like I want to be as specific as possible, but that's really the honest truth. It is catered for all of our clients. We generally look to have our services cost between $1,500 and $2,000 per time you reach out to us. You just pay it up front. And at the end, we issue payment receipts pro rata across the board based on what dollar amount we've decided for each of those, what we call engagements. And an engagement would be one expert search, medical or non-medical, a medical record review by one of our 70 doctors that we have on staff. It's 40 unique specialties, a literature review curated and applied to your case and put it in a manuscript about 10, 15 pages long, usually citing about 30 articles. You full access to the articles and not just the transcripts, and then due diligence on opposing experts. And those are the core services.
All right, so that was going to be my next question. So you found me the best expert. I'm in love with this expert. I'm going to trial, and then who's the other expert? I don't know that expert. So you, as part of your services, you would also be able to do sort of an analysis on the other expert, what they've testified, how many times, plaintiff, defendant, the whole 9 yards.
That's right. It's called Expert Radar. We monitor these experts 24/7 for 12 months. That's just kind of the baseline. And you nailed it. All of the information on every case they've worked on, deposition trial transcripts. If they've been struck, what was the reason? What were the grounds for the challenge? Was it successful? What was the disposition? Who did he work for? All of that is under our litigation activity. We also make sure they're professional CV. We're independently verifying it. They can't lie about publications. They can't lie about where they graduated, all of that. And we're also looking at their background, of course, not just criminal background, but everything that they've done. Have they had traffic tickets, et cetera, which obviously that doesn't matter, but we're even picking up on that. And things they say on social media. It is crazy what people say on LinkedIn. People don't realize it's social media. It is, and it's very trackable, and people contradict themselves a fair amount on social media. So we also include that. Yeah.
So I think when I was looking at your website, I saw like the profile of an expert. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the subscription plan, you can basically start to look through people on your own.
Yes, and so to be specific, that's eventually where this is going to go, where you can just browse our database and you can actually pick an expert. We've had our experts radar service released to the public for the last 2 years, and we're still getting to the point of having enough profiles that you can just kind of go to the database. As of right now, for most of them, we're putting them together custom. That's rapidly changing. Literally, as I speak, we're slowly transitioning over to it being more of a self-service type of situation that you can get it on demand, you'll get it right away. As of now, it takes a bit of manpower. It usually takes about 2 to 4 weeks to put it together. So if you guys are looking ahead and have something coming down, we track them for 12 months, but it does usually take a few weeks or so to put it together today. But again, that is rapidly changing over the next few months. That's going to be, or next year at a minimum, will look very different.
All right, excellent. All right, now I also saw on your website that you have litigation guides, and what are those? Why would I go to your website right now and tool around and look for your, your litigation guides?
Yeah, we have some great white papers that have been put together for us by folks that contract with us or part-time employees. What I mean to say by that is they're actively practicing attorneys to talk about issues of voir dire, what makes a good expert, some simple stuff, but all of our white papers, though it starts simple, get down to really the details of how we and our approach to how to find experts, what we think makes a good expert based on our 14 years or so just finding experts, again, 3,000 cases a month. And so it brings together not just what's out there in the local community amongst attorneys, but also our experiences internally with all of the cases we've worked on. And we put that together in a bunch of white papers that are very informative. And there's a whole list there that if anyone has any questions, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to walk you through it.
In the old days, a lot of my colleagues or people, just anecdotally, I would hear, they got a big case, they think it's a big case, it's big injuries, but they're really not sure what was the cause of the injuries, and they would just go ahead and file the case, and then let's see what happens. Maybe they'll settle it. When you're talking about like doing medical records reviews and all that, and maybe even hiring a consultant expert beforehand to tell you what your case is about. How critical of a factor do you see that as, the state of current litigation? Is that key, or can people just, let me just file it and then figure it out?
Yeah, I certainly can't speak to the history of where we are today, just being in the industry, the medical legal industry for 7 years now. But what I can say as of today, I can tell you across the board, there's not a single state, and we work with all states. It is universal that all of our attorneys say it's not like the old days where we can just throw a case together, maybe try to muscle some people around. It is just way too expensive. If it's a medical malpractice case, hospitals are fighting back, doctors are fighting back. They're my colleagues. I know them. I do understand that things have changed and they're not going to roll over like they used to, perhaps, so to speak. So right now, I can definitely tell you over the 7 years I've been at the company, we've made an entire business out of the fact that attorneys, folks, need to investigate their cases before filing it. There are so many different reasons why, let alone giving your client false hope, having them relive the injury without having a positive impact. All of that stuff is important on top of how expensive it is and how time consuming it is to do it. So our medical record reviews, if it's a medical issue and something that doctors can sift through for an attorney, are invaluable, especially for medical malpractice cases, but any personal injury case outside of med mal, that there's some tricky causation, eggshell plaintiff type of case, damages are unclear, anything like that, understanding your case holistically, knowing what the other side's going to say before they say it, I've been told is invaluable. So again, I don't know where it used to be. I've heard stories of what you just mentioned, Greg. People used to kind of just push things through. That's definitely not our experience.
Yeah, I think one of the things you said is really key, and I think that a lot of lawyers just don't. It's not in the way they think, which is, client expectations. You file the lawsuit, you tell them, and then 6 months later you're going to say, "Oh, your case sucks," or what? It's just, I don't think lawyers realize how much damage they're doing to their client. And also a lot of times you get flack, you could get a bad review and what have you. I think these days, the days of just, the Wild West and let's just go ahead and get it in court and see what happens is really not a good business practice. So I want to talk about a little bit about your newsletter. I know that's not a key component of the operation or whatever, but who should subscribe to your newsletter? What kind of topics do you cover in there, and how often does it come out?
Those are all good questions. I think the newsletter comes out weekly. There's a weekly and a monthly one. I would say anyone who's watching this podcast who has any interest in experts, what experts say, different types of angles with experts, how to review records, are great candidates for it. So whether it's a week or a month, I will have to look back into that because I think we have both. But the weekly one for sure covers such topics as cases that we've seen recently, cases that attorneys have been willing for us to share, and how we managed it, or really how they managed it with our assistance is really the more proper way to say it. We never tell attorneys what to do. We just provide insights into the data that we have. And so that newsletter is really just around keeping people up to date on some interesting cases, strange cases, strange examples, and even run-of-the-mill ones where things are changing, like let's say in Florida, the need for a life care planner and billing expert, because now the laws have changed down there. That kind of thing we are routinely addressing on a weekly basis. So I think everyone should subscribe to it. I think it's great. And like I said, I believe it's weekly at this point.
Okay, well, I'm not going to hold you to that, but I know that.
Please don't.
Whether it's weekly or monthly. All right. Did we cover everything? Did I miss any of the services that Expert Institute provides to lawyers and law firms that you want to go over?
No, that's it. The last thing that we didn't cover is our medical chronologies. I could share my screen here, but it said that I need privileges for that. So it's no worries. Let's not worry about it. If someone's interested in it, I'll just discuss it verbally. We use artificial intelligence on the front end, going back to the AI as I was rolling my eyes, but I actually love the AI that we're using. It's basically just medical NLP, which is natural language processing, that reads the OCR text and puts things into groups for us. And then what's key about us is that our doctors or our nurses in-house do quality control before we send it back to you to make sure that the AI hasn't had any hallucinations, which is something that can occur. I haven't seen it too often, fortunately, with ours. But anyway, we make sure that we don't see any of that the records are making sense. Everything is hyperlinked in the timeline. You can sort by things like organ system, by a single provider, by a specific diagnosis. You could look at all the medications alphabetized when they were given, if someone's pain requirements went up, went down over time. For a med mal case where antibiotics given, labs are all in one place and collated. And so it makes it a lot easier for folks to get through their records. And I've also been told it does save on hourly rates with experts as well by making it easier for them to consume. So saving a few $100, $500, $1,000, $1,000 or so could be a very beneficial.
All right. So, that's very exciting. And I think that you guys are doing great work. I know a lot of lawyers and they don't want to spend money, but you know what? You got to spend money to make money, and you got to do it from the beginning and not just throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks or whatever. But in any event, Ross, thank you for coming on today. Ross Green from Expert Institute. He also is an ENT. You need an expert no matter what the field is or whatever. This is your source. So Ross, thanks for coming on again today. And that'll do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase. Subscribe, rate, review, share, whatever you do, I will appreciate. And that'll do it. Ross, take care of yourself, all right?
Take care, Greg. Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.